Okay, how about that? Yeah, that did it. Okay, now we really have to start over again. Man, I swear I did so much testing um, to make sure everything was going to go smoothly, and it, of course, did not. The video was frozen, and the audio wasn't going. So, what can you do? But we are okay. We're up. We're running. I see that you can hear. Perfect. Welcome to the live stream. I'll start over. Um, Basically, I was just saying that this is the photography live stream. I'm Colton, and we're going to talk about things photography. I have some subjects here, some things that I want to touch on, stuff that we usually do on the live stream, and a few maybe little treats as well. But as always, feel free to jump in the chat and ask any questions that you have. Join the conversation, or even if you want me to talk about something or you just want to get my take on something, feel free to throw out any suggestions. And I always say, even if you're not watching live, feel free to comment on the video because I will get the notification, go back, comment, respond to it, all that good stuff. So you can still participate even if it's not live when you're watching. But yeah, this is our February live stream, and it's pretty late. I think we have one day of February left. I intended to do this much earlier, like a week ago, 2 weeks ago, and it just didn't really work out that way. Too many things happening this month that kept pulling me away from doing the live stream. So I finally allocated some time, and now we're finally doing it. But to get us started, I think I will do what I feel like I normally do, which is to kind of talk about some stuff that's happened in this month, catch you guys up, and then dive into some kind of like end of the month photos, which these are going to feel maybe a little bit stale because I always do the previous month's photos. So these are going to be ones from January. But as far as this month, it has been crazy. I don't know if it's been crazy for everyone or just me, but I had the gallery go live since the last time I did a live stream and had a reception for it, had an artist talk last night for it. And so that has just been like a huge to do the last 30 some odd days. I do have a gallery video that was about the reception that went out last week, or maybe 2 days ago. But I'm going to play an extended cut here on the live stream. So there'll be some shots that are maybe new that I didn't include in the video I uploaded to YouTube. But that's been a really big thing. The other one is really getting started on like a hunt for a new place to live. So my girlfriend and I, we're going to be moving in together, and we're going to find a new place. And that's really exciting because I think we're going to find a place that physically has more space. Like a lot of the places we've looked at so far have had garages or extra bedrooms, extra like living room type spaces. So it's exciting because I feel like there's opportunity to maybe even get a little bit more creative or just have a new environment to exist in, which is really exciting for me. But it's also a little bit, maybe not sad, but I get a little sentimental because I've been in this space for 5 years. And really, the entire YouTube channel, this has been the background for it. So things are changing, and change is not always bad. It's just different. But I'm excited for it. I'm excited for potentially getting some new space and just the possibilities of what I could create in that space, both for myself but also for here on YouTube. And the other big thing I've been thinking about is like I have this background, and if you watch like the history of the channel, little things in the background definitely change. The angle that I shot at changes, but it's mostly been the same background this whole time. And so there's maybe an opportunity to do an entirely new background for the YouTube channel, or just like set up some other spaces. You know, I've always wanted to have more photos back there, and maybe like another shelf back there to put some of the other cameras up on. So maybe that's like the perfect opportunity to do that. Hey Colton, not a lot of time right now, but I love what you're doing here on YouTube. Hey man, I appreciate that. That definitely, you know, it always helps to hear that, because sometimes, you know, you do some stuff and it goes out into the ether, into the void, and you're never sure if people are appreciating it or not. But yeah, I'm glad you said that. Welcome to the stream. No worries if you don't have much time. That's totally fine. Place where the candy all happened. Yeah, that is correct. This is where it all went down. Just literally right over here to my side is where it all was. I have a scanner on the table over there right now for a video that will be coming up this next week. But yeah, that's kind of the big things that are changing. I did also, man, there's going to be a gallery video I'm going to have to do about like start to finish. What did I do to get into a gallery? What did it take? You know, what are things I learned? But it's going to become a huge video because there's like so many things. Like I got interviewed about the gallery yesterday, and got to talk about like my art and why I created it, how I got there. And I feel like I learned a lot about my own art in the interview because I finally had to speak about it. And so it was like, oh wow, I'm making some like mental connections here that I didn't make until just now. So it was pretty cool, but hopefully the interview will go somewhere and I'll be able to share it, you know, whether it's digital or in print form or something like that. But yeah, so I'm going to pivot now over to the end of month recap, which I mentioned a little bit ago, but this is always photos from the previous month that didn't end up on Instagram, didn't end up in a YouTube video, but there may be still like photos that I enjoyed or meant something to me, and I just didn't have an outlet to share it. And so I will do that in the live stream, and I'll usually do about 5 photos. So let's jump over there and hope there's no further technical difficulties. Okay, here we are. And it looks like everything's working. Let me know if anything stops working. Daniel said, as a proud owner of both, I especially love the Pentax 645D and Z. So you might, you know, appreciate this live stream, even if you end up not being able to watch it fully while it's live. I am actually going to revisit an image from the Pentax D and Z in a different software where there may be something new worth looking at compared to what I saw in the video I did. So that's a teaser for later. And we have what other hobbies in here too. Speaking of the person who lent me the 645Z, and has lent me that for a while, which is very, very kind. But yeah, I couldn't have made that video without him. Welcome to the live stream. Looks like we're having a few people who might be looking for a 645D or 645Z since that video. So awesome. So yeah, my delay is short, and I probably should find out how to adjust it, but there's too many technical issues as it is. So anyway, so yeah, this is the end of month recap, and these are some photos. I'll just kind of talk about some of these and maybe what they meant to me or why I included them here. This first one is my brother, and you might recognize him because he's been in at least one, if not 2 videos on the channel. So there's a carnival long exposure video that I think he was in, or the other one was the video where I put the filter on the, I want to say it was E500, and went around and took like photos with like really nice halations in the highlights and everything. And it's hard to remember because I went to that carnival like 5 times before it left, and I made like 2 or 3 videos from it. So anyway, he was in that video. He is the one that shoots a lot of like VHS type footage, and he has a couple channels, one where he does all kinds of random VHS stuff, and then a separate channel where he films local artists performing, and he'll film their entire set on VHS or High 8, something of that nature. So Tape Collector and Video Hell are the 2 channel names that he goes by. But anyway, in this photo, my brother helped me frame virtually every photo that ended up in the gallery. So we, framed, I think there were like 3 or 4 that I didn't frame that I had a company do because they were going to do something very specific that I was too unknowledgeable to do myself. But everything else we like assembled ourselves, put in the work. It was really, really cool. And so that took a lot of time. I mean, I think I went over to his house like maybe 4 different times, and each time it was like 3, 4, 5 hours. And I would, every time I thought, hey, it's only going to be like an hour or 2, and then it would be all evening into like 10, 11 o'clock at night. So I very sneakily asked him one day, probably back in September, like, hey man, I'm trying to think of more candy stuff to do. And I'm getting recommendations from people about what kind of candy they like, so I can use that. And I was like, what kind of candies are your favorite? And he told me, and I was like, freaking got you, man. And I went and photographed the candies that he had selected. And so then we were framing, and I think this was the final batch that we did. And as we're framing this one, I was signing them on the back, and I wrote a lot more. I wrote like, thank you so much for all the hard work. I'm so grateful to you. Love you, bud. And then signed it. And he's just like, why would he sign this like that? And he hadn't paid attention to the image in there. So I flipped it over. I was like, well, this one's yours. And then he realized it was all of his favorite candies. So I got a quick photo of him holding it. And then that did end up going up in the gallery. So once that gallery is over, we'll take it down and I'll go deliver it to him. But it was just my way of thanking him for all that work. So that's our first photo. That was back in January. And then we've also got this guy here. So this is a muffler man. Maybe not the best shot of him because he's got like arms and legs and everything. But I took this photo on the, probably the Instax Mini Evo, because it's basically a digital camera. And so then I took that off of the camera, transferred it over here. But I thought it was really cool because it was a day where I was trying to challenge myself to shoot with a camera that I might not normally photograph with, and to try to get like an interesting shot. And we were out looking at one of the places that we were thinking we might move to, and I just noticed this guy and went over and took his photo. But I really like the sunlight that is casting some rays onto the lens. It's like, little plastic lens. And I just thought it looked so cool, so I wanted to include that. Nothing too crazy. And then, of course, we have a shot. I guess this one maybe did end up in a video, because I did the Lego build on January's live stream. And then I made a video after the Lego build actually photographing the car. So if you want to check that out, it's on the channel. But I tried to photograph it in sort of the style that they photograph real life Formula One cars. And I'm planning this year to go to an IndyCar race, and depending on how that goes, maybe also the Formula One race that comes here to Austin, Texas. It's like literally in my backyard. So I may go to both, and if I do, it's going to be very, photographic oriented, and maybe trying to like get some cool shots. So I thought I would include this one as well. And then this is my girlfriend and I at a bowling alley where it's like their last year of business. They were supposed to go out of business last year. They got an extension, and we like to go bowling there. So we're like, well, we ought to go as often as we can before they're closed for good. But that one was on, I think, the Fujifilm V10. So I was carrying that one around for like a month or so, trying to get photos and really like test it out for the video. And I just thought it was cool. It had like really good color science to it. Like it's very flattering. It isn't the strongest in terms of like resolution or sharpness, but I think it does a pretty good job. So yeah. And I think this is the final one. There's always going to be candy in here. But this was part of a test that I think actually was, now that I'm thinking about it, it was in the video for the comparison. But I just thought this was cool. And my effort this year with the Candy Art series is really geared towards creating a little bit more three-dimensional images. Like in the past of the Candy Art series, the goal was really to stay like very minimal and to create space and patterns and things like that, and mostly to shoot kind of 2D, like top down over the candy. But this year my goal is to maybe produce less total photos with the Candy Art series, but actually take candy and like using materials and glue and things like that, like actually build structures. And I haven't quite decided if I want the structures to be very abstract or if I want them to replicate common everyday items, but built out of candy. I mean, we'll see where it goes. But this was sort of in that mentality of like stacking these up and creating something that has height and a little bit more dimension to it. So yeah, we'll see where that goes in terms of the candy artwork. But those are the highlight photos from January. And yeah, jump back over here. So I always like to include that. Next time it'll be all the photos from February, and we'll see which ones get included, but hopefully you guys enjoy that. Kind of changing and pivoting a little bit here. I'm working on a video currently about Pentax Lens with GFX bodies. And again, What Other Hobbies was kind enough to lend me an adapter that allows those lens to be mounted to the GFX. And as I'm producing that video and taking photos, I see an article that pops up and talking about how there's going to be an autofocus adapter, which was going to be part of the kind of discussion, was that, it I guess, in a way is a very manual experience with the existing adapter, but I was really surprised when I originally looked for adapters that there wasn't an autofocus one that was readily available. There was like one that had been discontinued, but nothing active. And as I'm like writing what I'm going to say about that, then this pops up. And I just thought that was interesting, and we could maybe take a look at the video here. It is actually kind of impressive, but it's essentially, at its core, a adapter that will allow for autofocus. It will allow for electronic aperture control, and it will also obviously communicate data coming from the lens, which is pretty nifty. And I mean, I don't know what the price is. I don't think they released any pricing info, but if it's reasonable, then I mean, this is going to be a definite buy. Now, what other hobbies also brought this up to me and mentioned like maybe now's a good time to buy any Pentax 645 lens that you really have been thinking about buying, because conceivably, although not guaranteed, but conceivably the price could go up once this goes out and GFX owners want to start picking up Pentax equipment. But I wanted to play this video, although I do need to make sure that the audio does not play. There we go. Actually, tell you what, I wonder if we can full screen. Does that work in the way that I've set this up on the live stream? Yeah, that'll work. And this is kind of a cool one to see here, like how quickly it's autofocusing. Now, these are pretty contrasty items, so it makes sense that it's going to be able to lock on those pretty quickly. But yeah, very cool. I think it'll be interesting to see in practice, like in the real world use case, how does it actually perform? You know, is it as smooth as they've indicated here, or is there a little bit more hunting that is involved? You know, who knows? But I mean, that could be a real game changer for GFX stuff, especially because the Pentax glass is just incredibly sharp. And I mean, I'm thinking about the 120 macro. That thing is super, super sharp. So if you're able to use that on a GFX and have autofocus, that would be really, really impressive. So, great. Now I need to buy a GFX, right? I mean, you know, arguably, if you were looking at a GFX or a 645D/Z, the 645Z and the GFX 50S, I think, have the same sensor. So if you're then slapping the same glass on there, I would imagine the difference between the two would be pretty minor. And at that point, the GFX 50S might honestly be the better buy, because for whatever reason, 645Zs tend to still cost like over $2,000 usually. And a GFX 50S, like if you're really patient, you can sometimes find those for like $1,300 or $1,400. And if you're not that patient, you could easily find them for like $1,500 or $1,600. So the body itself is cheaper than the Z. And sometimes it's even cheaper than the D, but the D I've seen go all the way down to like $1,000, and that is like the cheapest between the three of them. But I mean, definitely something where conceivably it might make more sense with virtually the same quality to just go with the GFX 50S if you're looking between the two of those. So who knows? Hobby says, through my limited use at low light, GFX 50S has more noise than 645Z. That is definitely possible. The 645D, and I guess I haven't really tested the Z on noise as much, but like the 645D at least was known for having pretty impressive noise performance for what it was, especially being a camera from 2010. I mean, you can push the ISO on the D quite a bit and have, I mean, extremely usable images. So I wouldn't necessarily be surprised by that. You know, the Z is also not Pentax's first venture into medium format, whereas the 50S was Fujifilm's first venture into medium format stuff. So who knows, maybe that could kind of play a part, you know, as well. But yeah, I thought that was interesting. So any of you Pentax fans or Fuji fans, if you weren't aware of that, that's definitely something to be looking out for. Hopefully, again, it'll be like a really reasonable price, like 200, I think would be reasonable. I could definitely see them selling it for more, but I could also see them selling it for less. And if they sold it for less, then I would definitely grab one for sure. But if it's around 200, I would probably snag one, and that way I can use more of my Pentax lens. Awesome. So next, I wanted to, I guess while we're on the subject of Pentax, this is kind of a perfect time to pivot over to looking at some of these images. So in the video that I did on the Pentax D versus Z image comparison, originally I wanted to do the comparison in whatever software is Pentax's native software that supports those two cameras. But as I mentioned loosely in the video, they basically don't provide it for free as a download. You have to buy a Pentax camera, and then you get like a disc or a USB in the box. And my understanding from the forums is that that is because they are essentially using kind of like a modified version of SilkyPix software. And because of that, it is kind of like it has been altered for Pentax, but ultimately someone has to pay for the usage of that. And so when Pentax sells a camera, they're essentially buying another user license for the software. And so that's when it comes with your CD or it comes with your USB, and then you can install it on your computer. And you basically, Pentax then has to pay SilkyPix for your registration, but they've made the money because you bought a new camera. So if you're not buying a new camera, then they don't want you to get the software because they don't want to pay more for licensing or whatever. That's what people were saying in the forums, at least. And on Pentax website, they only offer, at least for digital camera utility, they only offer update links, not download and install from scratch links. So I didn't include it, and I just used Lightroom, which we all know Lightroom doesn't necessarily interpret files fairly or consistently. And so I really, after that video, I was like, man, I really want to see what it looks like in Pentax's software, because I want to know if it looks different, because if it does, that's kind of a thing. So anyway, I did a little more looking, and basically in the forums, they were saying if you take the software download that updates the software, and if you put a USB in your computer and change the name of the USB to this like weird set of numbers and letters, then the update software will see that as your license key, and it will install the full version. And I kind of didn't want to do that because it feels like cheating, but I did it. And now we have the software to look at. So I installed the software. I'm still not proficient or even basic level in digital camera utility. It's definitely a different kind of tool than your more traditional like Lightroom or, you know, Sony's Image Edge looks like a Lightroom copy. So like those are all pretty easy to use. So forgive me if I'm you know, not well equipped here in the Pentax software, but basically I just wanted to jump over there and show the difference between these two files. And this is the wrong screenshot. Let me see. Was it this one? We'll change the window. There we go. So yeah, so we have here the two files, and I'd be interested to know, before I dive in, which one you think belongs to which camera. To me, it's a bit of a dead giveaway. It's not maybe a fair comparison, but these are directly from the camera. And when I loaded them in, there was something that stood out to me. There's really like two things that stood out to me compared to the, what we saw in Lightroom. The first thing is that this tool offers native support for the 645D and the 645Z. So theoretically, this software should be reading those two files exactly how Pentax intended the software to read the files, whereas Lightroom may be to some extent guessing, right? And it's also possible in Lightroom that I forgot to readjust certain settings, and so maybe that could have been part of it. But, ideally, this would be how the two files would truly show up, and they are the same file type, so they're the Pentax PEF file type. And the first thing that stood out to me is compared to the files that we saw in Lightroom, neither one of these files seems dramatically more contrasty than the other. They both look fairly similar in terms of dynamic range. Whereas when we looked at them in Lightroom, it was like one image almost looked like a finished product, and the other image looked like, super, what do you call it? Like flat in terms of the profile. So one was like very contrasty, very colorful, a lot of pop, and the other one was very flat, kind of lighter on the color. But I don't see that here. I'm seeing that they both look fairly similar in terms of that. There is a little bit of a difference, but it's not dramatic. Now, the thing that is dramatic between the two of these is both the white balance, even though they're both set correctly for white balance, there is a tint, a bit of difference between the two of them. And there's also a color difference for sure. I mean, that was something I noticed in the Lightroom file, so that has absolutely remained true, where you can see the reds especially are coming out as two different colors almost. And I will say, I went back and I kind of looked at that red piece of candy, like I pulled it out of the bag and looked at it. And I think probably it does lean more towards this kind of screenshot on the right hand side, where it's a little bit more of like a magenta color. So I think the right hand screenshot is probably the most accurate of the two. I think the left hand screenshot is just a little bit more warm, but it is also kind of more towards that like more traditional red, or even more of like an orange like type color. You're shooting with PEF2. Yeah, so all of these are PEF. I only shoot RAW if there is such option, but some cameras have to keep JPEG with RAW. I forgot how I set my 645Z, but I think it may be DNG. Yeah, the 645Z, I think it was DNG, and I switched it over to PEF. But yeah, so any guesses on which belongs to which camera, especially since most of you saw that video that I posted? I wonder which one is the left-hand side and which one is the right-hand side, 645D and 645Z. So we've got one guess for left is the D. And also feel free to guess what movie we have playing in the background. I'm going to give it one more second here for you guys to make a guess. Left 645D, right 645Z, or is it left 645Z and right 645D? I guess left is Z. Okay, so we got a 50-50 here. All right, I like the way you guys are thinking. So the one on the left here is the 645D, and the one on the right-hand side is the 645Z. And I think the telltale signs is just that the D always produces, for me at least, a slightly warmer temperature as far as that final image goes, and you can see that most clearly in the white of the table. It looks more white on this right hand side, and on the left hand side it's a bit warmer. And that's something, yeah, to Jeff's point, like that's something that I see a lot on specifically Kodak CCD sensors, and I have no info or evidence to back up why that is, other than I think that Kodak, kind of had a hand in helping determine color science for the sensors and the cameras that went into them. But I've got more than one. I have 3 cameras with a Kodak CCD sensor, and every single one of them, no matter what adjustments you make, it always skews just a little bit warmer. I've heard people say that it's because Kodak wanted the sensor to replicate certain film stocks. But that's a big sign. But aside from that, because we can obviously make a minute little change here to the warmth and even that out between the two of them, but we still don't have a change for how these reds are showing up. Now the orange is pretty similar, the yellow's pretty similar, and the green is maybe the only other color that has some sort of variance for this photo. So I'm seeing a huge difference in the red, and I'm seeing a bit of a minor difference in the green, because actually on the right-hand screenshot that is not warmer, we're also seeing, kind of like a warmer green. So that's interesting to me. Like the image on the right-hand side that is cooler has a warmer green, and then the image on the left-hand side that is warmer has a cooler color of green. So that kind of messes with my head a little bit. But yeah, I will say, when we looked at this on that other video in Lightroom, there was a difference in the colors, and that only seems actually even more prominent here in Pentax's native software. So that just leads me to kind of conclude that Pentax did adjust the color science for the camera when they went from the CCD sensor of the 645D to the CMOS sensor of the 645Z. And, this is one example. We obviously don't have every color represented here. So then it kind of makes you wonder, like, for other images, what kind of color might you see different between one and another. I did do a sort of second test, which is that I took the adapter that I've got with the 645Z. I put it on the GFX 50S, and I used the exact same lens. So I took this shot a third time with that camera, and it was very similar to the Pentax 645Z image. It was like nearly identical. So the 645Z and the GFX 50S, the images out of those two cameras look way closer in color and just in general look than the 645D does to either of those two. So, that may be something worth considering if you are thinking about one of those cameras, is that the Z and the GFX 50S produce almost the same image if you're using the same lens. And the 645D produces a warmer image with a little bit different colors to it. Now, as I said in the other video too, I think the 645Z on the right is actually the one that's the most accurate between these two in terms of how the colors actually looked. That said, I prefer the colors on the 645D in the left image. Like if we were to make this maybe just slightly less warm, I like the way that red looks and I like the way that green looks way better. So I don't know where that leaves me, you know. Maybe I'm just used to seeing those colors because I've been shooting with this camera for a while, but yeah, anyway, it adds another layer of complexity. I think probably if you're deciding which one to get and you're a Lightroom user, you can just look at the Lightroom comparison in the main video. But if you're going to be using, you know, Darktable or Capture One or, you know, something like that, then, you know, it probably would be worth comparing them in those softwares. So yeah, interesting stuff with this. Let's see. Chelsea said Kodak invented color science. Did I hear that right? Yes, Kodak invented all photography. That's just the law. And then you can call me Alex. Okay, Alex it is. That will definitely be easier than saying the full channel name. Appreciate that, Alex. Got to go do work. I'll resume when the recording is out. Yeah, jump back in and take a look. So yeah, so I just thought this was interesting. Like the software itself really makes a huge impact. And I think this really does kind of change the image comparison. Like the 645Z does have more dynamic range, but when you put them side by side here, it doesn't seem that much more dynamic at this level, right? That's going to change depending on the ISO that you're shooting at. And I think these were both shot at like ISO 200. So it may be that the dynamic range benefits are more apparent at ISO 400 or something, whatever the native level is for those cameras. But it's certainly not as dramatic a difference as what Lightroom led us to believe. But the color difference that we saw in Lightroom is definitely evident here in this comparison. So I think at the end of the day, resolution is going to be pretty similar. Dynamic range, I don't know, looks pretty similar to me. So it's going to boil down to that color accuracy. Like, do you want it to be super accurate, or do you prefer the inaccuracies of maybe the 645D? You know, who knows? But of course, this is just one example. I could try to go in here and maybe find another set of images that I shot on both of them. I don't know exactly where. It's weird because the Pentax software also will not recognize other cameras. And so it won't do anything with those other files. So I'll just be like pulling up empty folders. Okay, I do have another one I can compare here. So actually, let me jump back over. Which one we're at? There we go. So if we jump back in here, this will be a little bit different scenery. So we'll open this up. We have to like totally redo this part. And I think we right click. I always forget how to get it to open up in two separate windows. Nope, not that. Huh. How do I do that again? Okay, we have that. There's a button here. Again, this is like my only second time using this software. Jeffrey might be able to help me. Be interesting what camera does better with flesh tones. Yeah, I do have a, that would be an interesting one too, is to compare the self-portrait that I did. But I got to figure out how to how to open these up. There's like a button that I'm missing here, and you click it and it lets you open it. Oh, in a new tab. Oh wait, no. Yeah, that's right. We need it like that. I also love this Windows like 7 box that this is in. Like they haven't updated it since then. Oh boy, I can't believe I don't know which button to click here to get this to come up. But okay, I mean, this isn't ideal. However, maybe if can I click them both and then say, there we go. That might be something. I think we did it. We did. Okay, I finally stumbled my way into success. All right. So same thing. I'm going to put the 645D on the left-hand side here. And I'll put the 645Z over on the right-hand side. And we'll shrink this down a little bit. Shrink this one down a little bit. Like right about there. Okay. So yeah, now we have the 645D on the left, 645Z on the right. And I'd say everything looks fairly similar between the two, but the one big one that really stands out is this highlighter's like, it's not a different color. It's just that it kind of goes back to the highlight control that we were talking about in the Lightroom video, where it's like in the Lightroom comparison, the 645Z had sort of like better highlight control. And I think that is what we're seeing here, is like this highlighter is catching a lot of the flash. And so it's maybe getting a bit overexposed. And on the 645Z, it's better controlling that higher brightness area. I mean, that could be totally wrong, but that's what I would imagine. Like if we went over to this side and we adjusted wherever the highlights are, exposure and tones, maybe. No, that's not it. But anyway, you know what I mean. But yeah, the highlighter really stands out. I would say the green, once again, kind of stands out between the two. Like it is a warmer green on the Z and a cooler green on the D. So that's interesting. I mean, the box itself probably does look a little more like the Z. So I think, again, I would have to hand it to the Z and say, like, if you're looking for color accuracy, it might be the Z. At least if you're using Pentax's native software, then it probably is the Z. I'm kind of curious where the portrait I did. Maybe we look at the portrait real quick. Gosh, how long ago was it? Oh, I think it was in this group. We had the state capitol. Oh, maybe not. Oh, here we go. But oh gosh, which ones did I use? What a handsome man. What can I say? Yeah, why don't we do this one? I think picked a different one, but whatever. We'll pick this one, and then we'll try to pick a similar one on the Pentax. Maybe... Yeah, how about that? That's close enough. So if we go to laboratory, oh, we only got one. I think we have to like select them both. Control click, boom. There we go. And then we have to remember how to do the thing that we just did. Was it this? What did we click? I literally just did it. It shouldn't be this hard. Process multiple files? No, that's not what we want. Oh, there we go. Perfect. Okay. So we'll do same thing, same sides here. This may not be the perfect comparison because there were two files that were really close, and these might not be the two, but we'll just drag them in here. Okay. So yeah, 645D on the left and Z on the right. And I would have to say they are much closer than they were in Lightroom. You know, once again, same thing. But there is a little bit of a color difference. Like the D has like more of like a kind of greenish hue, whereas on the Z, it's still green, but it's a little more gray. Just a little different tinge of a different color there. And things like the red in my lips are just slightly different. So those reds are kind of popping up as different again. And there is a little bit more like golden color, which I think is actually more how that hoodie looks. And it's maybe not quite as golden on the other hoodie. But otherwise they are much more similar between the two. But this would be kind of that skin tone shot. Utility 5 is a bit weird, to be honest. I also have Utility 4 too. Oh, maybe I ought to try it in Utility 4 and see how that compares to good old Utility 5 here. But yeah, interesting stuff. A lot closer, but with slightly different colors. But as far as the exposures go, they look much closer than they did in Lightroom. So interesting stuff. Next up, though, I have a extended gallery reception that I wanted to show. So this will be kind of going off of the video that I posted, I guess 2 days ago, but it's just an extended cut of that. And then I want to talk about the reception and the artist talk and all of that good stuff. So for those of you who got to attend, this will be a little bit of a recap. And if you didn't get to attend, then this might be a nice chance to see what it was like. So without further ado, here is the gallery reception. Well, that was interesting. I'm glad I was able to reconnect. OBS just literally crashed when I tried to do it. So let me try again and hope it doesn't crash again. Let's see.
Yeah. That's good. Somebody else had mentioned like smashing it. It looks good on the yeah, like on that ground.
The big print is cool. I love all the flakes.
The flakes, a little cracks and that. Oh, yeah, no. It does.
It's the chocolate.
Yeah.
I said I got sick. I was trying to eat it. That was my breakfast. I said, one thing that I really like about it is it's like sort of like a composition that you're all really fun. Like, you don't, well, especially these fish, you don't realize how many details are on these little fish. It's and like zooming in on the nerves and stuff like that. It's just like every like small thing's becoming big. You realize like how many little shapes are inside these like little objects. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And it's a real pain too. Then when I'm looking at them, you know, more than half the bag is not formed correctly. Like what they want it to look like.
Yeah.
So it's like realistically, they have like this great print, this great like shape, and only less than half of them actually look anything like what
I was wondering.
So this is the one you like, huh?
It's one of my favorites.
Come on. Yeah, you can come on.
Yeah.
Signature, $58. I mean, honestly, in this area, I feel like I could nationally get a product.
Everyone's gonna be like, why does the signature look a little different on each one of these?
Mine's a fake.
Let's have y'all not compare the signature style. Alright, here we go.
She's doing the happy dance.
Yeah, they don't understand this. It's on display right there. Yeah, feel free if you want to taste any of the images that you see.
Oh, that's how.
Yes, yeah. All right, so that is the kind of extended cut of that uh, reception. And actually, after I had put all of that together, my brother sent me an hour of VHS footage because he was shooting VHS footage at the event. He's also the one who did the video footage. So big shout out to him for helping me with that. But I haven't even gotten to watch the whole hour of footage from his VHS, but it does look cool. And I'll have to figure out how I can share that out. Maybe I know there's like a lot of channels out there that will just like dump VHS footage on the channel and there's like no context for it. Maybe I'll just post it that way one day. I'll just throw it up there. But yeah, it looked kind of cool. I wish I could have included it here, but there just wasn't enough time to add it in. But yeah, thank you. It was definitely a really awesome experience. I'm glad that I got to do it. But also a lot of people on this channel, you know, can probably think back to like 2023 and maybe even before that when I was talking about, oh, I want to do a gallery or I want to do a photo zine. And, you know, very hilariously, some of you might even remember in 2023 when I made that like a big goal of the year and then didn't achieve it. And so it was nice to have finally gotten to do it. And I think I know more about what I don't know. And so the next gallery that I submit to will be a little easier of an experience, maybe. I don't know. I might be setting myself up for, you know, failure thinking it'll be easy, but I at least know more now than I did when I started. Everything was an unknown for this gallery, and maybe the next gallery, some of the things I'll already know how to do and will have had good practice for. So yeah, I'm excited. I am planning to submit some of the images that don't sell to some of the galleries that are here in Austin. And then once that has happened or not happened, then I'll try to branch out to like Houston or Dallas and kind of like have an increasing radius. But of course, if it's outside of Austin, that opens up new sort of things to deal with logistics wise, to try to figure out how do you get this packaged up in a way that makes sense so that you can ship it out to a gallery or, you know, whatever. So, but yeah, it was really fun. I would definitely encourage folks, if you are creative and you have some stuff that you've worked on in the past, definitely consider submitting, even if you're not in the local area, because that gallery specifically is accepting 2026 submissions. And so you have like, I don't know, a few weeks or a month or whatever it may be to submit to that gallery if you wanted to. And then you would kind of have like a year to do all the prep work. So even if you draw or you do like sculptures or you make videos. I mean, when I first went there was like a printer that was printing out facts on a dot matrix printer from the internet. Like once an hour, it would print out a fact from the internet. And then, you know, there was some like other computer, like technology related stuff. So it didn't have to be like a traditional art form either. It could be something very unique and interesting. But if you have anything like that, even if it's not fully fleshed out, you might submit and see if you can get in, and then you'll have like a year to build out the rest of the materials that you need. But that's the Doherty Art Center, and they always put a link up on submissible.com, I think it is, or submittable.com, something like that. So yeah, find it, or just reach out to me and I'll go find it for you and pass it along. But yeah, definitely if you're an artist of any caliber or capacity or type, you should submit and see if you get in. But yeah, the reception was really fun. I also did an artist talk last night, which was really fun, and I'm really glad I did the artist talk because I was kind of on the fence about it when I submitted. I was like, I don't know what I'm going to say. But in doing the artist talk, it kind of made me sit down and really think about something that I wanted to say. And because I was thinking about it, it allowed me to actually process some unthought of things that I didn't know about myself and this series. Like it allowed me, I guess a better way to phrase that is, allowed me to realize some things that I hadn't really given myself time to think about, like what really this art series had meant to me, and some of the stages in my sort of process to get here. Because you all who watch this channel frequently know that periodically I'll do videos talking about like mental health and photography and sort of adjacent subjects. And I've talked on the channel before about why maybe you don't want to do photography as a career or do even your hobby as a career. And that ended up being sort of the subject of last night's artist talk. But I pulled a lot from my own sort of history and experience. And that really allowed me to connect the dots of like, oh, wow, I got burnt out doing paid photography, didn't touch my cameras for like a year, and then very slowly reconnected with photography, started the YouTube channel as a way to get that pent up creative energy out of me and put it somewhere. And then, ultimately through those two things, started to find the true passion for photography again. And then the Candy Art series came along as an accident, because you guys may have even found this channel by watching the video where I was taking those pictures, comparing the color science of my cameras. And it was in reviewing the files that I had taken that I was like, wait a minute, this file's kind of interesting. And in fact, it was actually that pause screen. I had to pause also as I spoke because I don't have a microphone set up for that screen, but that image was the one that was the very first image, but it was just part of a color science test. It wasn't intended to be art at all until I looked at the image afterwards. I was like, hey, wait a minute, this looks really cool. And then the Candy Art series became a priority, and I connected much more to sort of the childlike experiences with photography that I had that got me interested in photography in the first place. So that was sort of the nature of the artist talk. And I think I may make another video on that sort of subject now that I have that deeper knowledge of how it impacted me personally, that then I can share with everyone on YouTube. But yeah, that was a fun experience also doing the artist talk, and I would certainly do that again. And it was cool to hear. I wish I had gotten to hear all three artists that were also in the gallery, because the artist who did talk was like, I had no idea about kind of the history and depth behind her own work. And so it was really interesting to get to hear her talk about what that meant to her, and how it was like a healing thing for her. I guess mine in a way was a healing element for me, although I never would have thought of it that way. But hers like even much more so a exercise in healing. And I think it adds another layer to her work, which was really cool. So yeah, artist talks are interesting things. But yeah, that was the main things that I wanted to talk about in the live stream. I do have a video that I think will be really fun that's coming up this Tuesday. I kind of switched it over to Tuesday releases for the videos because it seemed like weekends were not working out so well. I think people are too busy on the weekend, so I switched it to Tuesday, and it seems like it's been going better. But I have this little kids camera that my brother got me, but it's actually an instant film camera. It's not film, but it takes receipt paper and prints out little images, and it's been a blast to photograph with. It's a little bit of a pain to open and reclose, but yeah, it just like prints out a little image. And now, of course, I have it uneven. Whoops. And then, anyway, you have like a little piece of paper. I was trying to do something because I was making the video, and I thought, well, there's like a USB port on here, USB-C, and it has a micro SD card. And so you can connect it to your computer by plugging in the micro SD card or just plugging in the USB-C. And you can transfer files off of it onto your computer, which you really don't want. They're very bad quality digital photos, but you can do it. And so the thought crossed my mind, well, if you can take a photo off of here, could you put a photo on here? And I was like, can I put a photo from the 645D onto this camera and then be able to print out medium format images onto receipt paper? And the answer is probably not, unfortunately. I spent hours and hours even just trying to get the images to show up on the back of this LCD screen, which I did eventually accomplish. You have to keep the file like less than 5 megabytes. So you have to take your like 50 or more megabyte medium format file and crush it down to like 5 megabytes. And you also have to retitle the image to fit the format that this camera assigns to photos. And if you do that, then it will show up on the back of the screen. So then you're like, oh, great, I got it to show up. Now I can print it. But unfortunately, when you print it, it just makes these like staticky, like looking images. And so I tried adjusting the amount of megapixels, like truly making them smaller in terms of the megapixel, like dimensions of it. I tried changing the aspect of all of the cameras. And yeah, thermal paper photography, I guess, yeah, that is probably what it is, because it is using heat to add these on. But no matter what I did, it just kept printing out static. But I thought that would have been a cool element to the video, to be like, yeah, I took files from a medium format digital camera and I printed them with this. But alas, it seems that at least as of right now, I'll probably do some more experimentation, but this camera can only print images that it itself took. And it doesn't seem to be possible to print images that you took on other cameras. But on those days I'm a little bit bored, or I don't have as much going on, I'll pull this back out and experiment on here a little bit and see if I can hack it. It kind of reminds me of back in the day when Instagram first came out, and I bought my first smartphone, which was an iPhone 4. And I was so excited because it had a really good camera. And at the time, I was using like a really cheap Nikon point and shoot that my grandparents gave me. And so I was really excited to have like an iPhone camera. And I knew you would be able to like edit the files on the camera or on your iPhone. And then I had heard about Instagram. And so I was like, oh, this is so cool. Like, I'll have a really good camera. I can edit the photos on the phone and then post them to Instagram for people to see. I remember that being like a mind-blowing thing. I was like, I have my own gallery, like my Instagram wall as my own gallery. So funny what Instagram has become. But back then it was so simple. But one thing about Instagram was that at the time, you could only post photos that you took with the Instagram app. And then very shortly after that, they allowed you to upload pictures from your camera's phone. So you could take a picture with your camera and then later upload it to Instagram. And so I started to not really hack it, but I had later a little bit better camera, like an interchangeable lens camera. It was the Canon Rebel T1i. And I was like, the quality here is so much better, and I want to find a way to get that quality onto Instagram. And so I was having to like figure out, how do I save the file on my computer, which is a Windows computer, but then I got to sync it with iTunes and try to get this image onto the phone, or maybe email it to myself or whatever, and then I'll have it on the phone, and then from the phone I can upload it. And anyway, it was such a process to do, and now it's like a second thought. But yeah, that's what this little camera makes me feel like. If I can just figure out what the process is, I'll be able to get a good image on here that I can then print with this specific camera, and that would be interesting. That would be a game changer in a way. But yeah, that video will come out. I do think this is a fun camera. I don't know the brand because my brother gave it to me for Christmas, and it, I think, has a few different brands. It's like one of those styles where there's like 8 different brands making the exact same camera, just like different colors and stuff. But it's definitely geared towards kids. I think that they may end up making like an adult version, because that's just so cool. It's so cheap, like the thermal paper, and that means that you can feel a little bit more relaxed in how many shots you're taking, because you know, like, oh, it's just a couple bucks to buy a whole new roll of thermal paper, and that's like 20, 30 plus photos that I can do off of one. And I know I've seen other people have like a sticky back, so it's like it's a sticker, and so it prints it, and then you peel it off and you can stick it onto things. And I think that would be really cool. I need to look up and see where I can get some of that paper, because that would be a lot of fun. But it does make me wonder if I could utilize this in some capacity with the Candy Art series, and I'd have to think about how that would work. But that could be fun to figure out a way to leverage this little camera. But I also thought I'd be the only one with this camera. When I got it, I was like, no one's ever going to have heard of this. I'm going to be the first. And without even looking it up online, because again, I don't even know what this thing's called, but like 2 days later, I'm on YouTube and there's a video of a girl like holding this camera, and it's like her like talking about the camera. And I'm just like, no way. Really? And then I watched that one video, and so now YouTube's like, oh, look, here's some more videos about this camera. Like, dang, they beat me to the punch. But that's how it goes. Plenty of time to make it. But yeah, we also have a video here, as always, and this is Near Dark, if you've ever seen it. It has Bill Paxton in it. Actually has a couple of famous people. Bill Paxton's probably the most famous. There's also the guy, I forget his name, but he played Bishop, the robot in Aliens. He's in this movie also. Which actually Bill Paxton was also in Aliens. So they both were in Aliens and they both were in this movie. This movie, I don't know. I feel like I don't like it, but it is fun. Like, it might be a fun one to watch with friends and just make fun of the whole time, because it switches from daytime to dark time like that. Like, one scene it'll be pitch black and they'll be like, it's almost daytime, and then literally the next scene it's like 12 o'clock in the day, and they're acting like it's morning, like the sun has only just risen. And I'm like, no, dude. I've done photography long enough to know that right there is noon. That's 12 o'clock sunlight right there. But I think it's probably just because it's a more of a lower budget movie, and so probably like they just had to film when they could film, even though it didn't always make sense maybe for the time of day that the script said that it was. But yeah, if you are enjoying the stream though, let me know if you have any thoughts or questions or topics, and if you're enjoying it, maybe hit the like button. Always appreciate that. Subscribe if you haven't. Apparently subscribing isn't important anymore on YouTube, but whatever, we'll take what we can get. As far as I think we are probably getting towards the end of the stream, because I have another thing happening later this evening. I'm playing some video games with some friends that I haven't seen in a while, so I'll probably play some silly 2D games with them. So this one will be kind of a shorter one, but I think for March, I'm going to try to do an earlier live stream in March, which will make it only like 2 weeks in between the two live streams. But I think that will make more sense than me trying to do a live stream while I'm moving. So yeah, it could be that we'll have one more live stream in this space, and then the next live stream could be in a whole new place. Sydney said, would you ever produce another short film? Yes, it is definitely on my to-do list. And I know you and I have talked about that. But the gallery ended up kind of like overwhelming me mentally, where I sort of just had to like settle down and do that. And then also my brother, who I'm planning to make a short film with, he had a few projects come up on VHS where he was like, well, look, I'm busy now too, so we might as well just revisit it later. But there is there's a script that's been written, and I think it's a really fun idea. And there is also a what do you call it? A film, not competition, not contest, a film festival. There's a film festival in California that I was in 2023, and they let me know, like, hey, if you ever do another one, send it our way. Like, we would love to include any other videos that you do. So there's a good chance I could potentially get into that festival again. And so I'm hoping to do it sooner rather than later. Like, maybe try to get my ducks in a row here in the spring, and then by, I don't know, summer, or at the very latest, like early fall, try to shoot it and have it ready for that October festival. So maybe sooner rather than later, but the idea would be to film it entirely on VHS, which would be really cool. And we would also leverage, I guess you can't see it in, oh, where is it? I have a Polaroid. It used to always be in the background of my channel, but gosh, I don't know where it is. Anyway, my family's original Polaroid that I have, it's up on my website, in fact, but it's going to be in the short film too. I don't know why that's a pertinent detail for me to share, but Daniel said, glad I stuck around. Looking forward to your Pentax GFX lens adapter review. Yeah, I think that one will be really exciting. I don't know. I feel like there's so much potential there with those two. And even just using, I mean, my goal with the GFX was really to use it for tilt and shift capabilities. So getting like a tilt shift rig, which I know Alex, who was in the live stream earlier, had set up one. He sent me like pictures of his. But I want to be able to do that for the candy art stuff, because you can manipulate the pane of focus and put more or less in focus and bend physics, which is really cool. And the Pentax lens would be great for that. So, yeah. And I think also just if you're a GFX user, Fujifilm's lens are really sharp and excellent quality, no doubt about it, but they are also extremely expensive. So the idea of being able to use just as good optical quality Pentax glass on a GFX body is I think really cool. Same with Mamiya. I have a Mamiya adapter, I think, also for the GFX. So I want to do a similar kind of thing of like, here's the Pentax side, here's the Mamiya side. Are you thinking of doing amusement fair series, book, gallery? Yeah, that actually is still on the table. I know that's been probably the longest running series, like really since the beginning of this channel, of me photographing long exposures of carnival rides. And I have to say, it's like one of the most fun things. You also have to be very patient. Sometimes it can be a little boring because you have to wait sometimes long periods of time, but it's so much fun. It's just the pain of it is that the carnivals, they all have websites and calendars, but they haven't updated them since like 2017. And you email them and you may, email 10 different carnivals and you get a reply from one of them. And the reply is just, oh, we don't know when we're going to be coming back through Austin. We're up in Idaho right now. We'll probably come back down around October or something. It's like, okay, well, shoot. I mean, at this point, I would say, look, I will take pictures of your carnival and give them to you for free if you just tell me when you'll be in town, right? Like, you could just have them. I won't charge you or anything. Just let me know when you'll be in or around Austin, and then that way I can actually go. Because half the time I've gotten really unlucky where I'll see the carnival, and so I'll say, oh, I need to go shoot this like ASAP. And in some cases, I will literally go the next day and show up, and the carnival is already halfway torn down. And it's like, dang. One time I went to the Dell Diamond, the baseball complex in the Austin area, and it was up and running when I drove past it. The next day I went back, and I literally pulled into the parking lot as the trucks are pulling out to go to the next location. I was like, it was a long drive. It was like 45 minutes one way. So I was like, wow, I just spent an hour and a half and got nothing. And that's, I mean, part of the charm of the carnival is you truly don't know if you're going to get anything. But yeah, I do hope that I can take a little bit more active role in trying to find carnivals, and maybe some of the more established ones. Like there's a Williamson County fair, there's the Dallas like state fair, and maybe it's just time for me to reach out to those organizations via email and say like, hey, here's some samples, like, can you let me in for free? Because some of those you do know when they're going to be, but they can be a little iffy about someone with a tripod, coming in, and sometimes they don't stay open super late. I know with the Williamson County one last year, or no, maybe 2 years ago, I went and I did have to have a conversation with the people at the ticket booth and ultimately like some manager about allowing me to photograph. Like their initial reaction was, no, you can't. And it's like, oh, come on. Like, here, look, here's some of the images. It's just colorful stuff. Like that's all I'm doing. And they're like, well, we don't allow tripods. And eventually I did get let in, but it's like, you don't want to drive all the way up to Dallas and then get turned away. That's too much. So maybe this year will be the year that I'll actually start to reach out to those orgs and get like media credentials or something. And I'll be happy to like share certain images with them. But yeah, exactly. Yet everyone takes phone photos. Yep. And that was one of the things that I did mention is like, well, people could literally just take photos with their phone. Like, I don't see what the difference is in that case. And they're like, yeah, well, he is right. They're like, well, a phone doesn't have a tripod. And it's like, yeah, but who cares? I guess the concern is like, if you have a tripod, maybe you're getting in people's way or something. I don't know. But I have a feeling like the Dallas one would be a little more strict than the Williamson County one. But the Williamson County one would be fun to get like a media pass for. There's also Verse Fest, which is like an hour from here. Last time I tried to go to Verse Fest, I wrecked my car and totaled it. So that was another time where I was trying to go photograph a carnival and then destroyed my car. And I had to go without a car for like 3 or 4 months. It was miserable. So I've had a run of really bad luck trying to get the carnivals. I either wreck my car, or I show up and the carnival's packing up, or I get worried that someone's gonna tell me I can't go in. The roadside carnivals aren't so bad because like nobody cares. You know, it's like we're coming in, we're setting up this carnival for like a week or two. None of us want to be here. None of us care. If somebody comes in with a camera, we literally don't care. It's the ones that have like an established premises and like park staff and official like booths, you know, ticket booths, and like entry. Those are the ones, you know, where they're charging you to enter the premises, that tend to be maybe a little bit more sticklers about the camera stuff. But anyway, that is how it goes. It looks like the movie ended. There you go, near dark. You can't really see it, I guess, that far back. But yeah, but as far as the carnival stuff goes, ultimately, yeah, I do want to be thinking about, once that has a few more images in the series, what's the deployment method, for lack of a better word? Is it a gallery? Is it a photo zine, photo book? Is it just making some prints available? I don't know. That'll be an interesting one to think about for sure, how I'll finally get those images out to people. And quite a number, if not really the majority of the images in that series, are all shot on film. So that kind of adds another layer to it, where it's like, that's years of film work in the medium format that I think is really cool. And there are a few digital images, but those digital images are also shot on medium format digital. So, you know, an average person viewing that probably wouldn't care or even know. But photographers, I think, certainly would find that interesting, or I don't know, maybe a fun element to those photos. Yeah. Good stuff coming up. I think probably the priority here in this year will be to do the Candy Art series and kind of try to take it to the next level of that series, and do more like created sculptures and photos that way, and just kind of see how I feel about it. And I think the Candy Art stuff will continue for quite a while, but it may not be the primary project in the future, just depending on how like this sort of next phase of it goes. And maybe I'll pivot into, you know, another subject or something like that. But I do want to try to keep consistency, no matter the subject that I'm photographing. Like what's the consistency I can keep in my photographic style and in my voice. Like keeping things very colorful is important to me. So if I were to change subjects, ideally I would want to change in a way where I could still produce really colorful images. So fashion could be something. The carnival long exposures could be something. You know, if I did street photography, it would be trying to like find colorful things within street photography, you know, things like that. So rent a gallery, have some coin operated rides, skee ball with your images, and oh yeah, Fried dough. That would be actually really cool to do. Have like a mini amusement park with also the images from that shoot. I think another thing that would actually be really cool is whether it's using like old TVs or using old computers, or maybe even just using things that have a screen but would not typically be considered a playback device. Like for example, this Fujifilm point and shoot camera, like it will play back video that you took on it, but theoretically, like, could you put a video file on here and then play it, and it's actually something that you shot with a much better camera, but you're using this camera as the playback device? It would be kind of cool to find opportunities. Like I was wanting to put together like a Windows 95 or Windows 98 computer, but then have the computer basically just do a slideshow of all the candy art stuff and essentially make that Windows 98 computer essentially just a digital picture frame, right? I think that would be really fun. And maybe mixed in there with the photos is like video B-roll of stuff, of like candy being manufactured, like, you know, Mr. Rogers style. He always showed the factories. Like you'd go on a little field trip, quote unquote, in Mr. Rogers' neighborhood, and you'd go see how candies or pencils are made or whatever, and he'd get stock footage, I guess. They probably didn't have stock footage. They probably actually just shot it, but yeah, having like the candy artwork and then have like cutting away to footage of like candy being manufactured would be sick. I think it would also be kind of cool to partner with a candy manufacturer or a candy distributor. Maybe not as much in like a paid situation, but something to where maybe I'm like a sponsored artist or something, and basically it's like, we will let you have access to as much candy as you want, and for 1 month you'll have access and you can do whatever you want with the candy, take whatever pictures, and then ultimately like we as the manufacturer will get to then use some of those pictures to promote ourselves. And it's like a collaboration. Like that would be kind of cool. There's definitely some candy shops in Austin that, now that I have a body of work and now that it's been in a gallery officially, maybe there's a little bit more street cred, that I could go to Lamb's Candies or Big Top Candies and say, hey, can we do something? I think I would have to draft like a pitch or a proposal. Like I think if I just showed up and said, can we do something? They'd be like, do what, man? Like, sure, but what do you want to do? You know? So I think I'd have to have an idea that I'm bringing to them, but that might be something also worth considering in the future. I don't know. But that said, that's going to bring me to the end of this live stream. I super appreciate you guys jumping in here. If you don't mind, if you haven't already, give me a thumbs up, and that will help out the channel a lot. Check out a video on the channel. I've dropped a few. I think I've dropped a few bangers the last couple weeks. So I don't know. You guys let me know if they're bangers or not. But a few of those videos on the channel. And we'll do another live stream here in March. I think for this year especially, we kind of started this last year, but I'm definitely going to commit to doing a live stream at least once a month, depending on how it goes, depending on how busy I get. I may try to up that and do more than one in a month, but I think there'll be sort of like a guaranteed at least once a month live stream. But I will continue to upload videos weekly. I've started to also upload shorts each week as well. So the upload count is kind of going up a little bit, I think, as I build out stuff. And we'll see how April goes, because that's when the move is. So hopefully I'll be able to still put together some weekly uploads through that. That'll be the test of how disciplined I've become over the last couple years of doing this channel. So yeah, we'll see. But yeah, I really appreciate you guys jumping in here. All of you who jumped in here live, and especially those who jumped in the chat and talked with me, always appreciate that. You know, the whole reason of doing the live stream is so that I can talk with all of you in the community in real time. That's what makes it so much fun, and be able to be maybe a little more long-winded and rambly than I allow myself to be on regular YouTube. But if you didn't see this live, you can still comment and you can still ask questions. You can still participate, because I will be notified, and I always like to go back and respond and interact with people who are watching the live stream even after it's not live. So whether you're live or not, you can still participate, as I always say. Great stream. Love the content. Have a wonderful weekend. Thank you. You too. Guys, don't forget to pay rent. That's going to be coming up, I think, Saturday. So you're going to want to make sure you pay rent. Are you bringing a camera bowling? I do. I basically bring a camera with me everywhere I go these days. It's at least something like a point and shoot, and I'll shoot a lot of B-roll on like the cell phone for video footage. I probably will also do a video about this particular phone's camera and kind of how that can kind of bend our understanding of camera phones and how they relate to full cameras. But yeah, I always have a camera on me. I would love to take this one bowling with me next time, and it might even be fun to maybe, before that bowling alley gets knocked down, maybe I can hit up the owner or something and say, hey, do you mind if I come in with a much bigger camera, like my film camera or my medium format camera, and take some photos? And who knows, that could be a thing. But yeah. So anyway, that's going to be the live stream for today. Again, I super appreciate you guys. And I'll have another good video coming out this week. And also, in addition to the what was it called? Reception video, I will also put together a more fully documentary gallery type experience video of like start to finish that will probably be part, you know, what was my experience, and part how can you do this for yourself if you want to do a gallery, because they do all kinds of stuff. So anyway, yeah, guys, thank you for jumping in here and joining me, and stay creative, have fun, and have a great weekend. I will see you all in the next one. Bye-bye.